I'm Sergio Motella from Melovino Meadery, here with your craft beer and brewing tip of the week. So aging your mead. You could either age your mead in a plastic bucket, just like you could ferment in. You could age them in plastic carboys, glass jugs. There's all these different types of options out there on the market for them. But one thing in particular as far as aging goes is your airlock. So if you're gonna age your mead for quite some time, one thing to keep into consideration is the type of airlock that you use. So your average airlock is gonna look like this. Sometimes they also have these S-type of airlocks that basically are exactly the same as far as function goes. You fill it up with some sanitizer, or some people even use vodka inside of your airlock. The CO2, the air is able to escape through the water and bubble out. Escape through the top of the airlock, but there's no oxygen that's able to come back into the mead itself. So that's basically how an airlock works. So this again is one filled with sanitizer, which is just fine, but if you're gonna age this for an extended period of time, you're gonna end up forgetting about it. And what will happen is little by little, that sanitizer might start evaporating away, and before you know it, your airlock goes dry, and guess who shows up? Fruit flies. Fruit flies will work their way into the tiny little pinholes at the top and work their way down into the airlock and into your mead. And it can also oxidize your mead during the aging process. So that's another thing to keep in mind is if you're gonna age mead for a prolonged period of time, make sure to stay on top of your airlocks and make sure that they don't evaporate away on you and go dry. Another option and a really great tip is to use dry airlocks that don't use any water at all. So there's two different types here. One that could be commonly found online is this airlock here. It's from Better Bottle, the manufacturers of these actual plastic carboys as well. And they have a whole slew of different accessories, like a little mini racking arm, for example, so you can rack your mead off of sediment within the carboy. And the dry airlocks. The dry airlocks in particular are really great because they work basically with a little tiny marble inside of the airlock itself that moves out of the way whenever there's CO2 being released. So the CO2 comes out through the airlock, moves the marble, little tiny marble out of the way. The CO2 is able to escape. The marble falls back in its place, covering the hole, preventing any oxygen from going back in. So this is really great for extended aging. So you don't have to keep on top of it drying out on you. It is a dry airlock, so you can forget about it indefinitely and it'll never allow oxygen back into your mead. Another option is, these are a lot less commonly found in the homebrew scene, but you could find them on some professional winery websites, supply shops. It's basically the same thing as one of these Better Bottle dry airlocks. It's just on a much bigger scale. There's actually two marbles that work within this housing, but it works basically exactly the same. So keep that in mind when aging your mead. Make sure to use some dry airlocks. If not, just make sure to keep on top of your other airlocks to make sure they don't go dry on you. To see our full lineup of classes, please click on the link below.